Hello, Grace family. Today is Good Friday. When I first found out that the Friday during the Holy Week or Passion Week is called Good Friday, I was somewhat puzzled. So, why is it good? It's ironic because Christ suffered and died. For example, in German, it is called Karfreitag, Mourning Friday, or Stiller Freitag, Silent Friday, or Hoher Freitag, High Friday, or Holy Friday. Yet I found later that this name Good Friday is not only ironic, but also proper and fitting, since it is Jesus' tragic death that brought us salvation, life, and promise. We all live in and live with irony between good and evil, between the person we want to be or claim to be at the first front stage and the person we truly are at the backstage. So, who am I? This is one question I invite you to think about and ask yourself as you listen to this message. Who am I? So, who am I? I'm Peter. My English name. It's not a given name, rather, I gave it to myself, not because of the glory of Simon Peter, the most famous disciple whom Jesus called the rock upon which the church will be built on Matthew's Gospel, but because of his fragility, his failure in spite of his love and passion for Christ. Who am I? I'm Peter, because I know what he did on Good Friday. Today's lectionary text is John chapter 18, verses 1 through chapter 19, 42, which is a long passage, maybe longest passage I ever seen in my entire ministry career. It describes how Jesus is arrested by soldiers, denied by Peter, interrogated by the high priest and later Pilate, and how he is crucified and buried. I hope you already know the plot and flow of this story, so called the Passion of Christ. So rather than going one by one, I want to focus on the characters in today's story, especially on their identity, who they are. To begin with, let's look at John chapter 18, verses 4 through 5, and see how Jesus presents himself when he is asked, "Who are you?" This is John's version of the story. Then Jesus, knowing all that was to happen to him, came forward and asked them, "Whom are you looking for?" They answered, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus replied, "I am he." Judas, who betrayed him, was standing near them, with them. You know what's interesting here, and unlike the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, Judas doesn't kiss Jesus here. No, he's practicing social distancing, I think. Jesus just comes forward, asks, "Whom are you looking for?" And when he heard Jesus of Nazareth, he says, "I am he." He doesn't hesitate in revealing himself. He knew what they were up to and why they came. NRSV translation and most versions of the Bible we have translate verse 5, "I am he." Yet it literally means "I am." In Greek, ego eimi. Ego means I, eimi means "I am," which is the name of God of Israel who revealed himself to Moses in the burning bush. I am who I am, or to be. The source of being, the source of all existence, the great I am. So, who is Jesus? Who am I? Jesus answers, "I am a truth teller. Actually, I am the truth." The next person we find is Judas Iscariot. He informs chief priests and Pharisees of where Jesus would be, brings soldiers to Kidron Valley, and finally gets him arrested. For what? For 30 pieces of silver and probably for his ideology, his vision, though his version of what Messiah should be, the military leader or revolutionary who saves Israel from Romans. George Morrison states Not only did Judas sell Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, he also sold himself. A.W. Tozer says Judas Iscariot was not a greatly wicked person, just a common money lover. And like most money lovers, he did not understand Christ. So, who is Judas? Who am I? Judas answers, I am a betrayer. The next person we find is Peter. When he enters the courtyard of the high priest and is asked by a woman, you are not also one of this man's disciples, are you? He says, what? I am not. I think this is John's literary genius. Jesus said, I am he, ego eimi, I am. And Peter says, I'm not, uk eimi. I'm not. Not once or twice, but three times in a row. Earlier in John, when the crowd left Jesus, he asked his disciples, do you also wish to go away? And it was Simon Peter who said this beautiful, powerful words. Lord, to whom can we go? You have the words of eternal life. We have come to believe and know that you are the Holy One of God. Yet when the bigger, maybe the hardest challenge, the threat of death, when it comes, he denies Jesus and thus gives up not only Jesus but also himself. Judd Velnor says one of the hardest decisions you will ever face in life is choosing whether to walk away or try harder. So, who is Peter? Who am I? Peter answers, I am a denier. The next person we find is Caiaphas, the high priest. He questions Jesus about his teaching, and Jesus says, why do you ask? You know it already because I said it openly in the synagogues and the temple. Ask people. Surely he knew it, but asked him anyway to trap him and kill him because he thought Jesus was a threat to his authority and his position and to Jewish establishment. Did he know the Jewish law? I guess. Did he know Jesus' teaching, his teaching of the law? I guess. So what is he doing here? I think he's committing hypocrisy. I think just as many religious people do, it is that some of the biggest hypocrites are those who are blind to their own faults, but are quick to judge others for any wrong done. Oh, you must be so godly in the first place. So who is Caiaphas? Who am I? Caiaphas answers, I am a hypocrite. The next person we find is Pilate, the Roman prefect. Demanded by the crowd to kill Jesus, Pilate asked him, are you the king of the Jews? Jesus answers, my kingdom is not from this world. He asks Jesus again, so you are a king? Jesus answers, you say that I am a king. For this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. This little interchange between Pilate and Jesus ends with the Pilate's famous question, what is truth? Which we know the answer, especially in John's gospel, is Jesus. I am the way and the truth and the life. Though he goes out and says to the crowd, I find no case against him, not once, but multiple times, in the end, he hands him over to the Jews to crucify him because he fears the Jews, their riot, and their accusation against him, his disloyalty to Caesar. He knew Jesus was innocent, but followed the crowd, not the truth. It's right, to a coward, courage always looks like stupidity. So why bother? Right? So who is Pilate? Who am I? Pilate answers, I am a coward. The next people we find are Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus. After Jesus is buried, Joseph of Arimathea, a member of the Jewish council, Sanhedrin, asked Pilate the body of Jesus. Nicodemus, who came to Jesus at night and asked about the reverse and eternal life, it's like famous John 3, chapter 3:16. So God so loved the world. That happens in the conversation between Nicodemus and Jesus. He also brings a mixture of myrrh and aloes to give him a proper burial. They were following Jesus in secret in fear of the Jews, but now they reveal their true identity when they needed it most. They are so different from Peter and other disciples who acted basically, I'm a leader, not a follower, unless it is talk. When it's talk, then you are going first. So, who are Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus? Who am I? They answer, I am a follower. We have seen people in this story and who they are, unlike Jesus, who revealed himself, I am. Judas was a betrayer, Peter was a denier, Caiaphas, the high priest, was a hypocrite, and Pilate was a coward. Unlike these people, Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus revealed their true identity as Jesus' followers. Now, the question is back to us. I want to ask ourselves the same question: who am I? Because we have to answer this question in this night at the foot of the cross, when the angry crowd, when the soldiers are looking at us. Guys, let's be real, my friends. We are at no place to judge and condemn these people: Judas, Peter, Caiaphas, and Pilate, because they are us. We are they, a betrayer, a denier, a hypocrite, and a coward, especially when the threat is great like this night. Yet, the irony is, in spite of all, we are still saved. We are still the sons and daughters of God. We know why. Because God knows who we are. We are all of them: a betrayer, denier, hypocrite, coward, yet His own, who deep in our hearts wants to follow Jesus, His way of cross. So let me close tonight's message with a poem, Who Am I?, written by a German theologian, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who wrote this in a prison cell before he was executed for his involvement in the assassination of Adolf Hitler. Who am I? This or the other? Am I one person today and tomorrow another? Am I both at once, a hypocrite before others, and before myself a contemptible Wibbegen or Winkling? Or is something within me still like a Briton army fleeing in disorder from victory already achieved? Who am I? They mark me. These lonely questions are mine. Wherever I am, thou knowest, O God, I am thine. We know this unchanging, unswerving, and undeniable irony, the answer to the question in this very night. Who am I? I'm yours. We are yours. Amen.